All right, hello once again, Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College, and as part of the Rankin Technical College AWD1000 Web Development Technologies course, I've been creating a series of video presentations based on the PowerPoint slides for one of the two textbooks for the class, that being Murock's JavaScript and jQuery 4th edition. And I've done all of section 1, so chapters 1 to 7. I did chapter 8, but I'm taking a little break from jQuery and I'm jumping into the section 3. So I'm in the middle of chapter 12, and I did the working with numbers, and I did the pig app, and I did the working with strings. So this is what we got left in here. Dates and times, a countdown app, and internationalization API. So that's what we're going to talk about now. Before we do, though, however, I did want to mention this. I'm going to email this to everybody, both my first-year students and my second-year students. And it's got a bunch of different URLs for JavaScript. So JavaScript number object, string object, date object, control structures, exceptions, regular expressions, and arrays. And the one I want to mention is this one. Now this site, to my knowledge, is no longer an active site. In other words, it's been archived. But if you go out to it, at least the last time I went out to it, you still could. Good. Ugly as heck. All right. Just an ugly site, but unbelievably well written with great examples. Now look, essential JavaScript. I'd start there because it's a tutorial on the language. All right, numbers, strings, arrays, which we have been talking about, and there's dates. So I would literally start with essential JavaScript, a JavaScript tutorial, look at numbers, look at strings, look at dates, go into functions, then go to arrays, then look at JSON and AJAX. But if I go to the date stuff, what it'll show me amongst other things in here, there's dates, the complete reference, and it talks about dates and how they're set up, but sooner or later in here, come on, you're coming, it's going to show us all the methods that are available for dates. I know they're in here. Like I said, this is very extensive. There you go. Get day, get year, get full year, etc. And I believe if you click on one of them, no, maybe not. I thought you went to an example, but maybe you don't. But notice all the ones that are in here. So if I do want to get year, it's coming. There it is. There's an example. All right, there we go. Okay, so let's jump back into our slides. And this is the date object. So when you create a new date object, by default, I believe you get all the date information, so the month, the day, and the year, and I think you get the time as well. All right. When you create a date object like this, I believe if you put it in just like this, it defaults to midnight. So 00:00:00 a.m. Here's a grand opening where you've got a date and a time, and a departure time, for example. So notice when you do this, as it says, when you set up a new date, you can put numbers in there. Now, it's a little bit confusing. Notice 10 is November. What does that mean? Remember that we are using computers which are zero-based. So 0 is used for January. 1 is February. 2 is March, etc. Not the way you probably think that it would normally be. And when you set this up, again, you can put in year, month, day, hours, minutes, seconds, all the way to a millisecond, thousandth of a second. Now, typically you wouldn't do that, but you could. You can do a little bit of date math. Most of it is like you can figure out the difference between two dates in number of days, or you can add a number, to a number of dates, but you can't really do things like multiply or divide or modulo dates. It really doesn't make much sense to do that. All right, it says what happens when an invalid date is passed to a date constructor. And it says usually when you start doing this stuff, it won't work. Now, what does this mean? Well, that 2021 was not a leap year. Okay. You can check to see whether or not an object is a date object. All right. And as shown here, there's a little bit of stuff you can do as far as formatting dates, which is kind of nice because you can format them to a lot of different looks and feels, so to speak. And you may or may not be familiar with a lot of this stuff, but in most other countries of the world, they don't use a hyphen like we do between dates or a forward slash. They use a period. So there's all sorts of ways you can set this up. You can extract just the components of the date you want. All right. And I'm not going to read these. You can see them all yourselves. Not only can you get them, you can set them. All right. So get means that would be on the right-hand side of an equal sign, and you'd be assigning it to a variable. Set, all right, there'd be no equal sign. You just would be calling it. So they have a little countdown here. It says how many days are there till New Year's. All right. Stop this for a minute while the clock's going. All right, sorry about that. So we've got this. Let's calculate the number of days till the new year. Well, we want the current date. All right, so let's see. It says get the current date and time, copy the current date and time. All right, so we're just making new year, and we're going to then set it to 0 for January, 1 for the 1st, and whatever the next year will be. All right, now there's a lot of stuff that goes into this. So this is the time in milliseconds. So notice what we have here. New year.getTime minus now.getTime. So this will literally be 12 midnight on New Year's minus the current. All right, it says milliseconds in a day are hours times minutes. So 24 hours in a day times 60 minutes in an hour times 60 seconds in a minute times whatever the number of milliseconds we had. So that's this. Then we convert it to days by, as it says, the time left, which is that difference, divided by the milliseconds in a day. All right, so it'll either say, and there's different ways we can do this, but the way they did it was, it's either going to say there is 1 day left until the new year, or else it'll say, for example, today is what? June 29th, I think. So 1 for the 30th, 31, 31, 62, and 30. 62 and 30 is 92, and 31 is 123, and 30 is 153, and 31. So today it would probably say there are 184 days left until the new year. Okay? All right. You want to find the end of the month. Set the date to 1 day before the start of the month. So there's a lot of little tricks and stuff that you can do in here. Here's that countdown. So in other words, what you can do there is you can put in anything. So I could put in Valentine's Day, for example, and that would be then, what is it, the 14th? 2/14/2022, click countdown, and it would tell me the number of days that are left until then. Now this doesn't work because it's got slashes, which is expecting, but it's also got a dash, which it isn't expecting. So again, here's the math for it. All right. And there's a lot of different ways that you can do this stuff. We've talked about this already. All right. One topic that's fairly big, maybe not so much in this class, but we do cover it quite a bit in the AWD1112 Java Android programming class, and that is the use of internationalism. In other words, if you want something to be able to work in any country in the world. So you want to be able to format for different kinds of date formats, etc. All right, and that's kind of what they're talking about to end this particular chapter. So notice you can, in here, we're using a United States format. I don't even know what DE is. Okay. But you notice we've got commas. There they've got periods. We've talked about this before. You can format currency the same way that you can format dates. So if we were doing a currency converter where we were using dollars and pounds and euros, etc., and things like that, we'd be able to do that. All right. And again, there is an example of what I showed you before. In some countries, now we use month, day, year. Other countries use day, dot, month, dot, year. All right, type. So if you want more about internationalization, again, the developer.mozilla.org site is a fantastic site anyway. And that's it. So that's it for Chapter 12. So next, and I've already got it up here, so next I'm going to be going into Chapter 13, so we can close off 12. And 13 will be on how to work with control structures, exceptions, and regular expressions. So it really is pretty much broken up into 3 different areas. All right, and I'll be back with that shortly.